This video is for every woman who has ever sat in silence, holding her breath in the name of love. For the one who looked at a man and wondered, "Is it me?" For the one who has heard sweet words with sharp edges and still gave the benefit of the doubt. Again and again, this video is for every woman who has ever doubted herself in love. And if that's you, I want you to know, there is nothing wrong with your heart. You're just waking up. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychologist, once said that what we do not make conscious will continue to direct our lives. And we will call it fate. The patterns that hurt us the most often begin where we cannot see them, in the unconscious, what Jung called the shadow. We don't just fall in love with a person. We fall into old patterns, echoes from childhood, echoes from the past, sometimes echoes from generations before us. And sometimes we stay not because the love is real, but because the pattern is familiar. And the unfamiliar, even peace, can feel frightening. So let's gently, compassionately take a look at 5 common phrases that men say. You need to accept me as I am. The first, it sounds like a plea for unconditional love, a call for understanding, vulnerability, and real connection. But sometimes, it's not about love at all. It's about staying the same, no matter the cost. There is a difference between being loved and being enabled. One nourishes the soul, the other starves it slowly. When someone says, "Accept me as I am," what are they really asking? Are they asking for compassion? Or are they asking for permission to stay unconscious, to keep hurting others and call it authenticity? Carl Jung spoke of a journey called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. He believed that love is not the absence of change, but the very fuel for growth. So when a man says, "This is just who I am," listen closely. Sometimes he's saying, "This is where I stop. You do the rest." Sarah was like many women, full of empathy, full of hope. She believed that love could heal. So when her boyfriend snapped at her, raised his voice, slammed doors, she forgave him. "He's just under stress," she'd say. "He didn't mean it." And when he said, "That's just who I am, I don't do emotions," she believed him and bent a little more. Over time, Sarah didn't even notice that she had stopped laughing as much. She filtered her words, walked on eggshells. She wasn't living. She was managing his moods. This is the hidden cost of accepting someone as they are, when that self refuses to evolve. It's not authenticity. It's emotional laziness hiding behind the mask of vulnerability. You are not here to shrink yourself for someone else's comfort. Real love asks, "Can we grow together?" Not, "Can you carry all of me while I stay the same?" If you've ever been told that you're too much for wanting emotional maturity, know this, you are not too much. You are just someone who's ready for real love. And it's okay to say, "I love you, and I need us both to grow." Remember, loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. Love doesn't mean walking on eggshells or silencing your needs to maintain peace. That's not peace. That's slow erasure. So how do you respond when someone says, "You need to accept me as I am"? You take a breath, you look into their eyes, and you say, "I do see you, and I believe in your potential. But love without growth becomes a prison, and I wasn't born to live in one, because you deserve a love that evolves, a love that holds you gently and pushes both of you toward the light." Love does not excuse emotional laziness. "All my exes were crazy" sounds like a joke, a throwaway line said with a half smile, like it's just bad luck in love. But listen closely. Behind those 5 words is a door. And when you open it, what you often find is not just a history of heartbreak, but a pattern, a very old pattern. Because when someone tells you that every single person they've ever loved turned out to be crazy, ask yourself, what part of the story is missing? What role did they play? Because nobody stumbles into chaos 5 times in a row by accident. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." In other words, what we reject in others might just be the very thing we've disowned in ourselves. If every ex is crazy, then maybe what's really being avoided is accountability. Maybe he's not telling you about the lies he told, the emotional distance, the silent treatments. Maybe he's not showing you the parts of himself that he couldn't face, so he made sure no one else could face them either. Amanda thought she had met someone different. He was charming, funny, always knew the right thing to say. He told her how every woman before her had let him down, hurt him, misunderstood his sensitive heart. And she felt special, chosen to be the one who finally saw the real him. But months passed, and the words turned sharp. The same stories he once told about others, he started telling about her. The same accusations, the same blame, and suddenly, she wasn't the exception. She was just the next name on the list. This is how emotional manipulation works. Narcissists, in particular, often use this tactic, painting every ex as unstable to make you feel like their savior, to pull you in deeper, to test how far you'll go to be different, to prove your loyalty by mistrusting every woman who came before you. But the truth is, if he's the only common denominator in all those chaotic relationships, that's not coincidence. That's a pattern. And patterns don't lie. People do. You do not have to rescue someone who has made a habit of blaming others. You are not here to be the good one. You are here to be whole, to be loved in a way that honors truth, not just stories. If someone cannot speak about their past without rage, bitterness, or blame, it's not because they've healed. It's because they haven't even started. So how do you respond when you hear, "All my exes were crazy"? You pause. You feel the weight of those words. And you remember that real love doesn't erase the past. It takes responsibility for it. And anyone who refuses to do that isn't ready for the kind of love you're building. Ask yourself, not was she really crazy, but why does he need me to believe she was? Because someone who constantly blames the past may still be living in it. If you really loved me, you would. When you hear the words, "if you really loved me, you would," what you're really hearing is not a request for love, but a demand wrapped in disguise. It sounds so tender, almost vulnerable, like someone's heart is on the line. But underneath, it's something else entirely: emotional coercion, a subtle pressure that tries to make love a transaction instead of a gift. This kind of phrase turns love into currency, something to be earned by giving up pieces of yourself, by sacrificing your own boundaries and freedom in exchange for acceptance. It's not about love. It's about control hidden beneath a veil of longing and need. Jung taught us about projection. How often what people ask of us is really a mirror for what they need but cannot claim for themselves. When someone says, "if you loved me, you would," they are projecting their own unmet needs onto you, hoping your love will fill a void inside them that they are unwilling to face alone. Lisa's story is one many can relate to. Living in New York City, she met someone who seemed caring at first. Then came the words, "if you love me, you won't talk to your old college friend anymore." It felt like a test, a proof of trust. And so she agreed. But slowly, Lisa noticed how that one phrase became a cage. Conversations stopped, friendships faded, and the world she once knew grew smaller, quieter. She felt anxious, isolated, and strangely unsure of herself, as if her identity was slipping through her fingers like smoke. This is what emotional coercion does. It convinces us that love means erasing parts of ourselves to fit someone else's mold. But love, in its truest form, does not ask you to disappear. It invites you to show up fully as your whole, beautiful, complicated self. So how do we respond to this disguised demand? We say gently but firmly, "Love doesn't mean erasing parts of myself." Setting boundaries is not rejection. It is self-respect. And real love respects your freedom, your wholeness, not your submission. When love asks you to lose yourself, it's not love. It's a test you don't have to take. You deserve love that celebrates your freedom, that welcomes your imperfections, that grows with you instead of shrinking you down. Remember this, true love respects your freedom, not your submission. It asks for your heart, but never at the cost of your soul. "You're not good enough for me." Hearing the words, "you're not good enough for me," feels like a cold wind slipping under your skin, disguised as honesty but carrying something far heavier beneath the surface. On the face of it, it might sound like blunt truth or even tough love, but the deeper currents reveal a slow erosion of your self-worth. A subtle game of power that chips away at the very foundation of how you see yourself. Sometimes, this kind of message is dressed up as honest feedback, a way to justify criticism under the guise of caring. Yet it's psychological warfare, one that strikes quietly and repeatedly, wearing down your confidence until you begin to question your own value, your own light. This harshness often hides the speaker's own deep wounds, a projection of their own feelings of inferiority, fear, or insecurity. When someone says you're not good enough, it's as if they are trying to convince themselves as much as you, trying to hold onto a fragile sense of power by tearing down another's spirit. Julia's story brings this to life. Her partner would say things like, "I could be with someone younger, but I choose you." At first, it sounded like a compliment, a twisted kind of reassurance. But over time, those words echoed like a slow drip eroding her self-esteem. She found herself hating her own reflection, feeling smaller and less worthy every day. The truth is, this pattern is designed to make you cling harder, to seek validation from the very person who undermines you. It's a trap that binds your heart with invisible chains, making you doubt your own worth while hoping for love that feels increasingly out of reach. How do we respond to this? The first step is recognition, to see clearly the fog that's been cast around you. When someone makes you doubt yourself again and again, remember, they are not your mirror reflecting who you truly are. They are the fog that clouds your vision. Your worth does not depend on another's judgment or insecurities. It is an intrinsic light, steady and unwavering beneath the shadows. And no one has the power to dim it unless you allow them to. Let those words pass like clouds, without planting roots in your heart. Hold firm to your own truth. You are enough, exactly as you are. Fine, do whatever you want. The phrase "fine, do whatever you want" carries a weight far heavier than its simple words. On the surface, it sounds like indifference, like letting go, but beneath that quiet shell hides a storm of unspoken pain. A hidden punishment wrapped in sarcasm and silence, an emotional shadow playing its subtlest game. Passive-aggressive words are like a smokescreen. They don't say what they mean, but they sting all the same. It's manipulation cloaked in silence, a way to punish without a fight, to cause guilt without confrontation. It's the shadow at its most cunning, making you question yourself while never offering a clear reason. Zoe's story shows how this slowly seeps into everyday life. Every time she made a choice, whether it was about her job, her clothes, or how she spent her time, her boyfriend's voice would drop to that cutting tone. "Fine, do whatever you want." At first, she tried to ignore it, but over time she began doubting herself, replaying every decision as if waiting for a hidden trap. This kind of communication leaves you walking on eggshells, unsure if your choices are ever really yours, caught between the desire to please and the fear of sparking more silence or resentment. It's a quiet form of emotional punishment that erodes your confidence, one unspoken accusation at a time. How do we respond? The path forward is gentle but clear. When the silence or sarcasm appears, it's okay to call it out. Not with anger, but with honesty. Saying, "I'd prefer you speak to me honestly, not sarcastically," is a way of inviting clarity into the dark corners where confusion thrives. Love, at its deepest, flourishes not in confusion or silent punishments, but in openness and clear truth. It grows when shadows are chased away by light, when what is hidden is brought gently into view. When we ask for clarity, we are not demanding perfection. We are creating space for growth, for understanding, and for a love that feels safe and real, not heavy with unspoken pain. So, when the words come with sarcasm or cold indifference, remember, beneath them is a call for honesty, a plea wrapped in silence, waiting for light. These phrases we've explored today. "All my exes were crazy," "If you really loved me, you would," "You're not good enough for me," and "Fine, do whatever you want." They are not just simple words spoken in passing. They act like mirrors, reflecting not only how someone else sees love, but also how they see you. They reveal hidden stories about control, fear, pain, and sometimes a deep misunderstanding of what love truly is. Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us that bringing the shadow into the light is the very first step toward true healing. When we stop running from those dark corners inside ourselves and others, when we allow ourselves to see clearly, even the painful truths become a path toward freedom and growth. It's important to know you're not being dramatic or too sensitive for noticing these patterns and feelings. On the contrary, it means you're awake. You're awake to the subtle languages of love, to the ways it can sometimes hide behind hurt and fear, and that awareness is the beginning of your own journey toward peace and self-respect. Have you ever heard any of these phrases before? When you did, how did they make you feel deep inside? Did they leave a mark on your heart or mind? Your experience is valuable. Sharing it might be exactly the light that someone else needs to find their way through similar shadows. So, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. Your voice has power, and it can bring healing not just to yourself but to others too. If what you heard today resonates with you, if it touches a part of your heart or sparks a new thought, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep reflections, and share it with a friend who might be searching for a little clarity or comfort in their own journey. Together, we create a community where light grows in the spaces where shadows once lived.